Joining us now from New York is newsroom editor at UnHerd, James Billot. James, thank you so much for joining us again. Look, first up, I have to get your reaction to the president clearly falling asleep at the table in Angola.
The footage is just painful to watch for any sane person. I mean, we had him struggling to walk in a straight line, struggling to keep his eyes open, and then confusing Angola with a city. It's just an insult to the people he's visiting. But it also just goes to show that this is a president who is in charge of the free world, or at least in charge of the most powerful country in the free world for the next 47 days. It's just shocking to see. And it also is a testament to just how much the American public was gaslit on his mental well-being. After all, they wanted to install this man for another 4 years in office. And it just goes to show the lengths they went to try and hide this from the American public.
Do you think Joe Biden even cares about his legacy anymore? You know, he's falling asleep during meetings right in front of the cameras. He pardoned his son Hunter after saying that he wouldn't. It's like he's given up altogether.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has thrown in the towel. I think what's done is done at this point, and that Hunter Biden pardon is a great example of that. It's pretty obvious that he's trashing all constitutional norms with the sheer breadth of that pardon. And I just have to think he just wants to live his life off in the sunset now and look after his family. That can all really be explained.
Yeah, spend even more time at the beach. Look, Joe Biden pledged $1 billion in humanitarian support to Africans displaced by historic droughts and food insecurity. But it comes at a time that North Carolina residents are still struggling after the devastation left by Hurricane Helene. Let's take a look.
Living in tents and small RVs with no power as winter approaches and temperatures now dip into the 30s.
There's times we don't get fresh meat because there's no way to keep it cold. Because you got to choose between heating the house with a generator, especially the ones who have kids, and keeping the food cold.
Wintertime's coming. These folks cannot be forgot about. Just because you don't see this on TV, it don't just go away. This is not going to go away for a long time. We got to get those folks out of those tents and in those FEMA campers.
Yeah, it seems that this decision hasn't gone down all that well with Americans who are still struggling and desperately trying to rebuild.
No, and rightfully so. And were it not for the intervention of Elon Musk and the Starship satellites that he sent out when this tragedy unfolded, God knows what position they'd be in now. It just goes to show where these priorities are in the Biden administration. They'd much rather care for the illegal immigrants entering the country in their millions ahead of the American natives living in these kind of swing state areas, and also $1 billion in aid to countries in far-flung regions. It just really does expose the ignorance of the Biden administration in this department.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. He's been getting straight to work during this transition period and he's already engaging with foreign leaders, and he's issued a clear warning to Hamas leaders, telling them that there will be hell to pay if hostages are not released prior to his inauguration on January 20. Look, some are saying that this language has really been missing over the last 4 years. What do you make of Trump's statement? You know, I look at that and I believe that it must be clear that he has some sort of plan when he returns to power to deal with this situation in the Middle East.
Well, I agree. And this is a classic case of Trumpian rhetoric. It's speak loudly and carry a big stick. And, you know, results are already showing, and he hasn't even entered office. Hamas representatives are reported to be speaking to Egyptian security officials about a potential ceasefire or even peace agreement. And it's not just in Israel and the Middle East that we see this kind of thing. Zelensky in Ukraine, for the first time, has proposed surrendering or ceding Ukrainian territory to the Russians as part of a broader peace agreement. And you can't help but wonder that this isn't to do with the incoming Trump administration. So, yes, I would say that there is certainly a big effect going on here, and he hasn't even taken office.
It'll be interesting to see. Look, President-elect Trump has named his once-jailed former aide, Peter Navarro, as senior counselor for trade and manufacturing, and he served as the White House trade and advisor in Trump's first term that eventually led to Navarro serving a 4-month sentence for refusing to comply with the congressional subpoena related to the January 6 attack on the Capitol. Trump says, "I'm pleased to announce that Peter Navarro, a man who was treated horribly by the deep state, or whatever else you like to call it, will serve as my senior counsellor for trade and manufacturing." He posted that on Truth Social, announcing the new role. What do you make of this decision?
Well, Navarro is a big Trump loyalist, but more pertinently, when it comes to the MAGA agenda, he is a big China hawk. So this is a real statement of intent from Trump when it comes to things like tariffs, where he is threatening some big tariffs on not just China, but on neighboring countries like Canada and Mexico. And once again, even if this is just an opening position, and by the way, that's no bad thing, it is taking effect. And he hasn't entered office yet, but the fact that Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, has flown down to Mar-a-Lago to speak with Donald Trump already just goes to show that some of these words and some of these appointments are really taking effect.
And he's announced more appointees for his upcoming second administration, including former national security official Kash Patel to be the head of the FBI. Now, he's been critical of the FBI and the so-called deep state. Here he is earlier in the year.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops.
How likely is it that he'll be confirmed?
The likelihood of him being confirmed is it's 50-50. And to tell you the truth, it really depends on how much Trump prizes him over other nominations. His defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, is also under the microscope for various past allegations. And it really depends on how much capital Trump wants to spend on each one of these characters. He might have to barter in exchange for RFK or Tulsi Gabbard. So I'm not really sure where Patel features on this pecking order. But it would be a really interesting appointment. I mean, Patel is someone who likes to break things. It's not always things that people like. It's not always things people don't like. But the effects he will have is definitely state secrecy will be on the down low. There will be a massive pullback on surveillance powers, all of which is good for civil liberties and a real boost there. He's definitely no fan of journalists, which again might sound a little bit menacing to you or I, but he says he does want to come after those who are complicit, in his words, in the 2020 overturning of what he sees was an illegitimate election. But he's certainly a very colorful character. He's written children's books in the past. He's been a real GOP operative in the past few years, sorry. And it would be very interesting to see what happens to the FBI should he be appointed.
It will be interesting to see. And he's also suggested that with Donald Trump in power, the Jeffrey Epstein client list and Diddy party attendee list would be revealed, which should surely be making some elites who are allegedly involved pretty nervous.
Yeah, and I don't want to name names because I don't have access to those lists, but I really hope we do get access. And I have to take Patel at his word here. He really does emphasize the importance of this rollback of the surveillance state and putting state transparency first and foremost. And you have to hope that this will fold into that, because I think the American public do deserve to know, and there is certainly a public interest case here.
During the election campaign, we saw some outrageous claims and behaviour from the left, those on the far left, some women just freaking out about the idea of having Donald Trump back in the White House. And they haven't really stopped trying to make a statement about it. Some were encouraging people on the internet to just boycott Thanksgiving altogether, not spend time with their families. And now some women are getting sterilised after Donald Trump's election victory. Just take a look at this.
Jen, how can I help you?
Hi, I'd like to schedule an appointment with Dr.
And are you the subscriber for this coverage?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what's this appointment for?
A consultation for sterilization.
Alrighty, I have you scheduled.
If you own a uterus and you live in America, it is the time to start seriously seeking sterilization. America is no longer a safe place to have a child. It is no longer a safe place to be pregnant or become a mother. It is no longer a place that we have reproductive freedoms.
Newsweek spoke to a handful of women who have either undergone sterilisation procedures or they plan to now that Donald Trump has won the election. James, what is going on?
Well, I shouldn't smile because, I mean, the fact that people are going through these kind of procedures does raise alarm bells, and it does enter into this kind of far left war on joy, which again is about Thanksgiving, as you mentioned, and against things like sex. And the truth is that I don't know how representative this is of all liberal women, but I think people that do actually go through this, maybe it's no bad thing that they don't reproduce. But the question you have to ask is, you know, what kind of media diet are these people on that they are led to this decision to think it's a good one? It also dovetails with another trend that's going on among liberal women at the moment, and that's the sex strike. Women are now refusing to have sex, or sorry, liberal women are now refusing to have sex because of what Trump is allegedly going to do to reproductive rights in America. But this has taken inspiration from South Korea's 4B movement, where there's sort of a no four behaviors: sex, dating, marriage, and children. And South Korea, hardly a shining example of democracy at the moment. So take what you will from that. But the overriding point here is that Trump is actually, by Republican standards, a moderate on this issue. He's not looking for a federal ban on abortions. He has made it explicitly clear that he wants to leave it to the states. And all this hand-wringing and pearl-clutching is quite worrying. I think everyone just needs to take a breather about this.
I think they absolutely do. I just can't believe it every time I see videos like this pop up. I don't know why, but look, they've got their reasons, and apparently it's all Donald Trump's fault. Look, the official trailer of Disney's Snow White movie has been released, and it's being slammed as woke. Let's just take a look at the trailer.
It's time to restore our kingdom. Waiting on a wish, holding out for someday.
Find Snow White.
This is our kingdom, and now we're here to take it back.
You were saying?
I'm sorry, my dear. Did I frighten you?
And it comes after actress Rachel Zegler went on a rant against Donald Trump and basically anyone who voted for him, posting on her Instagram that there'll be another 4 years of hatred leaning us towards a world I don't want to live in, claiming that it's leading us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. And she went even further, warning followers to avoid using Elon Musk's X platform because he supported Donald Trump. Look, she did later apologise for her comments, but it's certainly not the smartest marketing move ahead of this film.
No, I mean, it's a great strategy, putting out your leading actress to go ahead and piss off half of the American population and potentially causing a huge backlash from it. We've seen countless times that conservatives will vote with their wallet and won't engage with these kind of things. We saw it with the Bud Light commercial, and we could well see it with Disney, which, by the way, is not doing particularly well in its financials. And the thing to note about Disney is that it's a trite thing to say, but when you go woke, you do go broke. And if you look at the success of the Wolverine and Deadpool movie, that actually made fun of a lot of these kind of woke trends. It pulled in nearly $500 million worldwide in 3 days. So it just goes to show that what Zegler is doing is really going to just ultimately end her own career. And that's the facts that she's going to have to contend with in due course.
Newsroom editor at UnHerd, James Billot, thank you so much for making the time to join us on Power Hour. Great to speak with you.
Thanks.